Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Going Abroad with your host, Maddie Delmore. Today, I'm going to be talking about sustainability and responsible tourism while abroad. I am excited for this episode because this past week was Earth Day, and I love Earth Day, and I love going on social media and seeing all of the cool pictures everyone has from their travels and whatnot. And I also love dirt cups, which if you don't know what that is, it's like the pudding and the like Oreo that's supposed to look like dirt, and then they put like a gummy worm, and they're so good. So I found two really great articles. One of them was from Keystone Master Studies, and the other one was from Westchester University, and I think they just did a really good job of sharing some different ways that you could be a responsible and sustainable tourist. I know when you're studying abroad, you're kind of on the line of like being a tourist, but also kind of being a local because you're technically living there. And it can get a little confusing, but technically, I mean, you're still a tourist. I believe that for travel to be sustainable, there must be a harmonious interaction between travelers, host communities, and the planet with respect to many physical, socio-political, economic, and other factors. This is a quote from Alyssa Murray in one of the articles I was talking about before, and I think she does a really great job of talking about sustainability in travel because I know it can be a little bit of a confusing topic. Starting off, I think one of the biggest things is to limit your carbon emissions as much as possible. I know this is extremely hard because it is likely that you took a plane to whatever country that you're studying abroad in, and the sad thing is that most of our carbon emissions come from tourism travel and just travel in general. So that so once you get there to the country that you're in, I would recommend just trying to walk as much as you can everywhere that you can. And the awesome thing is that most of our programs are are in very walkable cities. So there's really no need for driving. In Florence, when I lived there, the only time I really was driving in air quotes was when I got picked up from the airport by taxi, and even then I was carpooling with I think four other people to get to campus. And then after that, I always tried to walk everywhere I could. I did take the train, which is a little better than some of the other options out there. And then the other thing I would have really enjoyed is to have a bike in Florence, but I mean, it would be a little bit difficult to obtain one for 4 months. So, yeah, just be very mindful of that. And the other thing you can also consider is the types of tourist activities that you are participating in. So, some ideas of like activities that might be a little more beneficial to the planet Earth would be going on hikes to like a nearby waterfall or in the mountains or having a picnic outside with your friends. And on the opposite side of things, I'm kind of picturing a helicopter ride or using a plane to visit a nearby country, which, you know, they're fine, but just something to think about for everyone. The next thing I want to talk about is shopping locally or thrifting or supporting small businesses. For example, I love to thrift. Even here at home, I love thrift shopping. And when I was in Italy, I heard about this store, and it's called Humana Vintage. Um, they sold beautiful thrifted vintage clothes, and it was all relatively cheap, and their profits went to a charity. So the cool thing about this place was also that they have these little pickup sites, collection boxes they call it, and they're all over the world in places like Africa and Asia and Latin America. And then all these clothes get sent to this small team of like 40 people in Milan, and they sort through the clothes and decide what is going to be sold. And I have the cutest clothes from there. I'm so happy I found it. Um, it's one of the few, no, I won't say that. There's a ton of vintage stores in Florence, but it felt more like a thrift store that we might see at home here. But there was plenty of small businesses and markets that you can support no matter where you go. So now that we've talked about a little bit about sustainability, I also wanted to talk about being a responsible tourist. And most of the time, this can mean taking time to meet the local people and making connections with them as much as you can. It can be difficult with a language barrier. I'm well aware of this, but just really making that effort. Maybe you even take a class to learn the language. But these local people can teach you a lot about the country's history and their customs and religions and so much more. So the other thing to do is to do your own research before you go to that country. And this can be like what kind of food they eat. It could be clothes that they wear on a day-to-day basis versus their maybe more traditional clothing. When I was in Italy, I noticed that a lot of people like to dress up on a daily basis compared to people here in the United States. And so it was kind of frowned upon if anybody wore sweatpants or if they went to the store with wet hair, maybe they just took a shower. That was definitely not the norm. So that was just really interesting. It's not, necessarily right or wrong, but it can be kind of a sign of respect to people and the locals if you are a little more knowledgeable about some of these things. Continuing a little bit about the responsible tourism, I did also want to talk about taking photographs and videos when you're visiting tourist sites. And most of the time, it's okay to do this, but just make sure that you're doing your research before you visit about the different kind of policies they have related to this, just because you don't want to get in trouble and or embarrassed if you end up taking pictures and you're not supposed to. So just make sure you're asking for consent beforehand, especially if there are other people in your pictures. And then once you have those pictures and or videos, just making sure that you're giving credit to where it's deserved. And also, if you're taking a picture of someone's art and you post it, just be mindful of the message that is coming across in your post that you're making about that piece of art, and ask yourself if the artist would be happy with the message that is being portrayed. Am I telling you not to take pictures of things? I know I have a ton of pictures like of just the scenery and some artwork and landscapes from when I was in Italy, and I'm so happy that I have those pictures to remember my time there. I'm just trying to tell you all to be respectful when you're doing so. All right, circling back to sustainability. Another big thing I would say is to limit waste and try not to overbuy and overconsume. Kind of, when you go to the grocery store, just think about how much of your items are actually going to be used. One thing I like to do with my roommates is that we would have like family dinner nights type of thing, because cooking for one can be a little wasteful sometimes if you don't do it the right way. Say you want to make like this big fancy meal that needs about 10,000 ingredients. That's awesome. But you're going to have so many leftovers, and a lot of people don't really like leftovers, including myself. So they might end up going in the garbage. One thing you could do is to say to your roommates, hey, let's have like a group dinner night, and we'll all pitch in and kind of go from there. But not only is this a better, more sustainable option, it's also a ton of fun. It was our like fourth night in our new apartment in Italy, and we were all just kind of getting to know each other. It was me and three other girls, and one of our roommates, she really loves to cook, and she offered to cook us all a meal, and we just sat down and had dinner together, and we really got to know each other and share stories and laugh. And it became like a regular thing, and we even had our Easter dinner together since we weren't at home. I also encourage you guys to bring a water bottle that you can reuse to wherever you're going. This is kind of an unfortunate story, but I don't know where my water bottle was. I did bring one, but I think it just got lost in all of my luggage, and it was there. I just hadn't unpacked yet, and I needed water, obviously. And I was going to class. This is like the first day of my classes, and I had this plastic water bottle in my backpack, and it spilt everywhere, all over my MacBook, and my MacBook broke. It no longer would turn on. And luckily, they had a Apple store in Florence that I could go to get a new one. And now I have an Italian keyboard. So that's that. But let this be a lesson to you all to get a reusable water bottle. Honestly, I don't know if that's like a little bit of a stretch, but I'm just gonna take it and run with it, because also the plastic water bottles in Italy do not screw on the same way. Like, they will leak, I promise you. And then lastly, just be respectful to the environment you are in. Obviously don't go littering. Just like you wouldn't litter here, don't do it there just because you're in a different place. Don't go picking a bunch of flowers that you aren't supposed to pick, or yeah, don't don't vandalize. Yeah, just kind of treat this place with respect, and also respect the local wildlife. Don't disturb them. You're entering into their home. I hope you learned some ways that you can respectfully appreciate a new country's culture and land and environment. And I also hope that this didn't feel like just a bunch of like don't do's, and that you learned something from this. So overall, just live your everyday life mindfully and respect everyone you meet. There is so much value in our differences, and try to celebrate them and learn from them and grow. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening. If you made it this far, I really, really appreciate it. And happy Earth Day, no matter what day it is. See you next time. Thank you.